Your definition of success.
To not fail.
What does innovation mean to you?
To create a delightful experience for somebody else other than you.
If you're investing, crypto or stocks?
Stocks.
Biggest motivation.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna say money because it isn't. Glory.
Glory.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I like that answer.
Yeah.
This is Chair, place where we discuss innovations. And here I had a pleasure to talk with a lot of startup founders. Heard of some good, some bad, and beyond that experiences, from successful stories to not that successful ones, but always related with some innovation or innovating the process, doing something differently. Today, my guest is Vedran Cindric, founder of Treblle. So, what is Treblle?
So, hi Nemanja, thank you for having me. And Treblle is an API platform that makes it super easy to understand your APIs and the apps that use them. And in essence, we're a tool that helps everybody who's building or using APIs do their job better, faster, and more efficiently.
So, story of today, we have a similar background.
Yeah.
So, story of today is moving from service business to startup, and what are the challenges and how you shift your mindset. But first, give me a context. How you started, how you transitioned.
Yeah, so I started developing when very early on. I started doing it professionally probably by the time I was 19. I'm 33 now, so I've been in the game quite a long time. And together with my current co-founder with Treblle, like we finished college and we had two options: to work for somebody else or to open something on our own. He was against it actually, but we ended up opening a development company in Croatia. We started with literally zero clients. We didn't
Zero seed money,
yeah, zero nothing.
z-
I think I always say the story like I think the first year of Flip, that was the name of the company, we paid out maybe 20,000 kunas in total, roughly like 3,000 euros between the two of us. So, but then we managed to turn that around, and we focused mainly on um, providing the entire experience, everything from, people would come to us with an idea. We would essentially think about what the product can be, how to architect it, and what we need to develop, what developers do we need, how does this design look, and everything. So that's how we essentially got started. And I would say in the last 5 years, we've just noticed API usage skyrocketing. So everything started becoming more and more focused about the API. Do you have an API? Let's build an API. We need an API. We're gonna connect it to an API. You have these multi-device experiences: iPhone, Android, TVs, watches, cars. They all
You name it.
Yeah, they all need to talk to your database through one endpoint, which is an API. And the tooling around APIs at that point, when we were starting with, I would say, the early version of Treblle, was basically Postman, and that's about it, right? Nobody else focused on the API part, and there were incredible tools for everything else. Like if you think about it, for if you wanted to analyze your website, you probably have like 50 tools. If you wanted to analyze, debug, or track anything on the mobile side, you've got 50 tools. But for your API, you have a very limited and scattered tool base. So we started developing something for us, for our own purpose, because I was getting sick and tired of essentially answering support questions from other engineers, trying to determine whether the problem is on the API side or the app side. So I said, let's try to figure out a way that we could, build something so anybody can understand that. I think that's the beauty of Treblle. You as a developer can understand that. You as a product owner or project manager or a QA tester, there's something for everybody, and you can all understand that in terms of the design and the UI.
So you saw the opportunity, but since you were in the service business, how was the transition?
Uh,
Rocky
so
road?
yeah, so what happened was we started deploying Treblle early on, I would say, to help us, and our clients didn't even know about it. But what they kind of found out is that whenever they would ask a question, hey, we noticed something wasn't working, I would already have the answer for them. Whereas before, I had no clue. We would have to sit down on like an hour long meeting to try to figure out what's going on, who's doing what, and what went wrong. So they were like, what's the new tool? Like, what are you using? How do you know? And we slowly started onboarding them, and they started using Treblle. They started recommending Treblle. So we got to a point where it was like, we were getting calls if Treblle didn't wasn't working, right? Or if we would deploy a feature for ourselves and we would break something else, people would, email me and, hey, this isn't working. Can you fix it? So
So that was a moment that you realized
yeah,
that you have a product, right?
yeah, exactly. We were like, okay, so this is going relatively good, but I have to say, like making the jump and the switch to a startup wasn't easy because we had a good thing going on, right? I'm no longer like 22. I have plans for the future, a family, whatever. My co-founder already has one, so we can't gamble the same like we could back when we were like 21 or something. So as you get older, you think about the bigger picture of things.
Or
So
is that some would say that's only illusion, but
yeah, yeah,
that's completely other story, and we
and
can get to back that later.
yeah, and we wanted to test the waters. We wanted to see, when you have an idea, and I'm sure you can relate, and you can't find the flaw. Usually, you're too close to the idea, and that's what like everybody who we asked was like, "This is the best idea ever. It's helping me. I use it every day." And we had a very tainted set. They were all developers, so we had no idea from a business perspective, is this really a solid idea? So we started kind of we wanted to test that out on a business level, and we attended Web Summit, which is a conference, and we just wanted to get feedback from various industries and people. And it turns out, a lot of VCs were there. They started knocking on our door. They started confirming the business idea, and we kind of jumped into that then.
So you mentioned this is you basically it was 7 or 8 months ago, right? When
Yeah,
you
yeah.
landed that seed investment,
Uh,
1.2.
Yeah, 1.2 million euros, and it was announced in July 2021. And as you know, the round closes much earlier
Yeah.
than the announcement. But yeah, so that's when the money hit the bank account officially, and we started dedicating full time between the three of us to Treble, and left the agency, let's say, behind us. We did bring on all the clients to Treble, which I'm very, very proud of. Yeah.
What I like about you guys is transparency, and I saw that maybe basically that because you're building that kind of tool, maybe it's in your DNA, right?
Yeah.
But recently I saw that you shared the deck
Yeah.
that helped you get investment. So how did you came to that decision?
Uh, yeah. So I'm a firm believer of learning by example. Like if you think about developers and how you learn a developer to develop better, they usually see somebody else's code, and they're like, I understand what they're doing. This is what I should be doing. So I've been doing that and learning like that my entire life. And in other areas of life, I know, like when we were renovating our apartment, I had no idea how to do some of the things in the apartment, and you just ask somebody to show you, or you watch a YouTube video. So one of the ideas, like when we were starting out, and when we were at Web Summit, one of the first questions that we got is, "Hey guys, do you have a deck?" And I was like, "We don't, but can I share what we think?" And they're like, "You can, but we still need a deck, right?" And then I started Googling, like, how to build a startup deck. And surprisingly, a lot of the content that I saw back then was just either way too advanced in terms of calculations, in terms of money, in terms of everything, or too rudimentary. So
And the
when
first option can get you scared,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. The first option, like when we saw like a business plan that had like everything broken down by departments, and we didn't even know what departments we were gonna have, I kind of got scary. So the purpose of that was actually just to share the deck because I think not a lot of founders, especially early stage founders, know some of the things that you can put, and I don't think anybody's gonna copy us. It's gonna be more like a structure, right? Oh, I can put this in. It's okay if I don't add this. It's okay if I add this, right? So it's more about helping them on that journey because I kind of felt that it was a bit underserved, and I think we tend to do that with all of our content and with all of our blog posts. It's very, I would say, intimate, right? The content that we put out, it's from personal experience and something that has helped us primarily.
Yeah, one of earlier episode I talked with one guest about that thing you just say, intimacy, customer
Yeah.
intimacy, and that's something that you're doing right now,
Yep.
basically.
Exactly. I think that they always say good business is really personal, and I agree with that. Especially we're in the developer tool market, so if you want to win a developer, you have to have an extraordinary product. So it has to give them 100x value of whatever they think it's worth, and then they have to trust you, they have to trust the company, and they have to find value in what you're doing. And I'm a developer, so I can relate to that, and I think we're just doing the things that I'd like to see and my co-founders would like to see.
Well, we're still on subject of investment. Can you share a part of the experience?
Yeah, 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 of
Because I'm
course.
sure that was completely different from service business to that investment part.
It is. You and I talked before the show. Like, if you're going from the service industry where everything is pretty dynamic, I would say you've got a lot of clients, you've got a lot of people who are invested into what you're building for them. They're trusting you. It's very passionate for everybody, and it's very involved in terms of meetings, in terms of you're doing things on the fly. And in a startup, it's just like 10x that level. So 10x more meetings, 10x more passion, 10x more everything. And I think that was the most surprising thing. I thought that if we focus on one product, we would have so much more time and so much more energy and so much more decisions around one single product, but you don't, because you're growing at a pace that isn't the same when you're running a service company, or at least a mediocre, not startup based a service company, if you will. So the transition has been for me, it hasn't been that hard because I really love products and I really love building products. But it takes some getting used to. And as far as having investors on board, I think that has changed a lot in the past, I would say, a few years. And I know a lot of people in the region, especially, are afraid of, they're thinking like, oh, they're going to control you, they're not going to let you do what you want. And I was pleasantly surprised on that level because, it's all about finding an investor who shares your vision. If they
And your
share your
values.
vision, they don't want to run your company. That's why they picked you, right? And the only thing that they're gonna do is try to help you. If you ask them for help, they'll help you. Otherwise, they're not gonna bother you. Nobody's making product decisions on a daily basis. You have board meetings and you have reports, and that's
That's
it.
it.
If things go terribly wrong, yes, they will step in, but again, to help you, not to take over the company or butcher the product or whatever. So it is a pleasant surprise from that end.
Okay, so let's talk about here. This is innovation talks, right?
Yeah.
So our main subject is always around innovation. Let's talk about how you guys innovated Treblle. Where does Treblle uniqueness comes from?
Yeah. So I think that one of the core ideas, and I think I mentioned that earlier on, is that we wanted to make something that is not helpful just to developers, but rather to everybody in the API lifecycle. API lifecycle is a big word, but essentially, when you're developing an API, it has a start and an end. And when you start, it's pretty lonely. You've got maybe one or two developers, but then they have to pass that on to somebody else. They have to add more developers who are integrating what they've built. So these guys depend on their work. Then afterwards, it goes to production. Somebody has to understand how people are using it, what features are they using, and so on and so forth. These are all different sets of people, right? So it's not one set of people, and most of the products were built for developers, and we, I think, built something that can be used and understood by all of these groups, which essentially allows them to do things more efficiently and not depend as much on each other, right? Before Treble, if you had to resolve an issue between the backend developers and mobile developers, you would essentially have to sit down for a meeting and talk for an hour until you figure out what's going on. Here with Treble, you can resolve that or understand what's going on literally within a few seconds or minutes. So I think we innovated on the UX and the approach, and we also innovated on some of the things that people are afraid to do, which is, for example, automatically generated documentation. Nobody wants to do that because, let's be honest, you can't get it 100% right. But it's not about getting it 100% right. It's about doing 90% of the work and, still helping the developer, right? So even if we make a mistake, we still help so much that they can manually fix one mistake if we make it.
Uh, so your customers, as you already stated, are mostly developers. Um, how you are acquiring them? That
Yeah.
can be a tricky business, right?
It's absolutely a tricky business because you can't exactly sell to developers, right? So getting developers to use a product is extremely hard. Like we started saying, it's next to moving a mountain, right? And we try to do everything in our power to make sure that we do as much work as we can instead of them. So all they have to do is make a few decisions whether or not they like it. But essentially, we have a bottom up approach, which means we're here to provide value. That means through our content, through what we're building, and through our products. So the essence of everything we do is how can we make our product better tomorrow, which will then drive more customers, which will then essentially delight your user. Because I think if you delight somebody, if you bring him some kind of joy or something that he hasn't expected, that is a next level of product innovation, of product development that you don't see a lot of people doing because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it's much more complicated. So we are doing a content based approach. Alongside that, we are trying to uh, trying to get our name out on as many platforms as we can, just like everybody else.
So while are we still on this innovation subject, I'm sure that, okay, I'm not sure, but maybe you needed to pivot at some point for the
Okay.
product, can you tell me how you approach this, how you decide
Mm.
on what to pivot or what not?
Yeah. So uh, I don't think anybody should be afraid of pivoting. Like I remember when we were initially talking on how to approach which platforms to target some of these people's, what are we gonna do in terms of the product. We have drifted apart somewhat, but I think it's for a good cause, right? Because the more you talk to your users, the more you talk to people, you find out what they're thinking, you find out what they want, you find out what their priorities are. Because sometimes I think pivoting is more about priorities. I think everybody wants to do the same, but just not maybe at this moment in time. So you just do something else before something else. And one of the things that kind of surprised me the most is actually For example, we're doing ISO 2701 certification. I That was not in any of our plans,
Or
nowhere.
agenda.
Yeah, nothing. So, and it was one of the, for us, being very creative, if you will, very uh, technology focused. That was a very painful pill to swallow. That we need to get that certificate, which is mostly, unfortunately, about a lot of administration work. And I think somebody should innovate that field very, very.
Maybe they
Uh,
would, but
yeah,
there is a regulations
yeah,
there,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
government's always it's
yeah.
always an issue, right?
So that's an example of a pivot that we just had to do. Why? Because the market and the companies that we talk to, need that on their checklist. Without having that, they cannot use a product
Yeah.
in their production server or whatever the scenario is. And again, you just have to be able to do that. There's like nobody asked us. Our investors didn't say you have to do this. uh, the market, your users will tell you we need to do this, and you got to do it. That's it. Your job is, I think, just determining whether or not something should be done sooner rather than later, and that's about it.
Uh, you're probably involving in direction of the platform, right?
Yes.
Basically, we are hearing this word platform economy,
Yeah.
and there are clear benefits there. Um, but let's talk on the other side. What are the challenges of building a platform?
Yeah, when you're building a platform, I think you're becoming a custodian of some sorts, right? So you're trying to set some rules. You're trying to determine what the platform is going to be about, how it's going to work, what are you going to accept, what are the rules, what is the playing field, and not a lot of people will understand that at the beginning. There will be people who will not like that. There will be people who disagree with that. So if you're building such a platform, I think it's a longer play. It doesn't happen, in a few months. You first have to have a really strong product for people to use a product before you can go be a platform for the masses, if you will. Because becoming a platform is, just another way of grabbing even more customers that might not be your primary user base, because a developer doesn't need a platform. Our developers, they don't care for a platform, but many other roles and services are used to having a platform model, are used to just going to a website, grabbing what they need, and moving on, or discovering something there, or you telling them this is what you need, and this is where you find it. So yeah.
It helps you diversify, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Right now, I think that, like I said, you don't build a platform that fast. So for now, our product is more focused on essentially growing the user base, and then when we have the user base, the platform is going to be more about, let's say, bringing value to the entire ecosystem of APIs, being able to discover APIs, being able to self-service them, being able to use some metrics that you otherwise wouldn't be able to use them. But before they can be a platform, there, we need to have users. We need to have and before that, you need to have a product. So it's like a chicken and egg situation.
I know, and another story is, of course, how big is your team? There are priorities, right? And you need to grow the team
Yes.
to deliver
Yes.
those priorities. And
Yeah, like we've talked a bit before the show about hiring and the situation in the markets, especially for developers in locally and everything. Yeah, these decisions will have to be made. Unfortunately, there isn't like a single place where we can just raise our hand and say we need 50 people, and they come tomorrow. So I think the first priority is actually getting a really good HR team or somebody who can get those people. Then we go to the next step, and so on and so forth. But again, with enough time and resources, I think anybody can do anything.
so, what is the future of your product?
A platform. So again, the future for us this year is going to be, right now we're mostly focused on, I would say, internal APIs. So if you're inside of HTech or somewhere else, you guys are developing APIs, you guys are using it. We're mostly focused on that, and we're slowly building out our product to make sure that you can go from that step of having like a private API to a public API. That's where we transition more into being a service where people discover APIs, maybe well people can onboard APIs and so on and so forth. So I think you're gonna see a few more iterations of our product this year, and then we're probably going to move into a different direction, which I think isn't bad. It's just natural, like we just talked about.
You were talking about pivoting earlier of company, but what about pivoting yourself in terms of what it takes for a great engineer
Yeah.
to become even greater leader?
A lot of patience, I think, and I'm I would definitely not call myself a great leader. I would definitely, I would say I'm a good engineer, but not a great leader. I think that's work in
You need to prove
progress.
yourself, right?
Yeah, it's also work in progress because I think leadership is mostly about dealing with people. So if you're leading somebody, they look up to you. You're the guy that needs to have all the answers. You're the guy that says this is okay or this is not okay, and they just trust you. And if you're not sure you're making a good decision, and then that's a problem. So I think it has been an adjustment for me, honestly. Even though I did run teams before, here it's different again because somebody that they my team sometimes ask me to bless like growth strategies, marketing strategies. Like I don't know anything about that, right? So you just sometimes have to go with a gut feeling or something that you would pick on your own, and you have to be able to educate yourself constantly. Like the amount of time I spend reading articles about how investments work, how the VC world works, how people make decisions, how to pull out the most of people is staggering. I never thought I would be doing that 3 years ago, if you will.
And does that help you with basically what you are in the core? Because you're still developer
Yeah.
and you're still developing it, but all this investment and other responsibilities probably moved you away from what is core.
Unfortunately, yes, I don't have the time to develop as much as I would. I still think the development is like my safe zone. So whenever everything else is kind of overwhelming, I go into that safe space and I just feel amazing, right? But I actually one of the things that I found that I like the most recently is growth hacking. So it's I think it's actually quite similar to engineering because you're doing a lot of testing and you don't it's not what I think is good or you think is good. It's
Not what data will show you,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And you got to get that data. There's a lot of programming. There's a lot of analytics there. You got to understand it. So I actually like that part quite a lot. I did not expect that.
Probably didn't even know before what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you hear terms like
Yeah.
growth hacking and everything, but when you get down to the core, I did not know it was that type of work. Yeah, so I think I'll always be a developer, and I think giving being a tech founder or a developer before somebody who runs a business is very valuable, especially because you lean more towards logic and
Analytical.
analytics than you would, for example, feelings, which I know some good leaders often use that as a driver, but you know, I think better decisions are made using logic and analytics.
Vedran, thank you so much for this. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, and I look forward to being here another time in beautiful Belgrade, sunny today. So yeah,
Yeah, it was a great day today.
yeah.
And I wish you luck with the next round. Probably we're waiting for something right out of on the corner, right?
I don't know. You try guessing. I won't say anything. We're always talking to people, so hopefully, hopefully it's around the corner. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not at liberty to say.
Let's keep it like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And for you out there, next Thursday, next innovation talk. Subscribe and see you.
Thank you. Bye.